Alrighty then. Pretty sure. What's that? Nah, chuck that one off. Mate. Let's see how this is all looking. Yeah. Put that clicked in. You might have to turn your mic on. I'm not sure if that is ready yet. Holy dooly, it's a bit humid.
It is humid.
That's interesting. So that one is there. Not showing that it's live yet. Can you bring up your phone and see if it's saying we're live?
Bring it up.
So it's saying this live event will begin in blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure I've got the stream started though. So why are you not doing what I want you to do? Is the question. It's saying it's good there. Oh wait, here we go. Here we go.
Pretty sure I've got the stream started though. So what the hell? Oh, that's good.
Alright, there we go. There we go, there we go. Awesome. Well, we've got another 2 minutes, so we'll wait for people to come in. Turn that down. Looks like you're on there. There we go. Awesome. Well, we've got another 2 minutes, so we'll turn it down, man. Wait for people to come in. Turn that down.
Sweet.
Turn off the sound, man. Coolies.
Rock and roll.
Coolies. Mate, why do you keep putting it on?
Man, what's going on? Just want to lower the volume.
That one's there. I'll need to move this across and make you smaller. And bring you up so I can see the chat. Like that. And those two together make it a good looking thing. Alrighty, 7 p.m. Oh, you know what I haven't done? I haven't set up the main recording thing. Mate, what is
going on? How can I... It says my audio's down, but it's still full volume.
Yeah, okay.
What?
Weird, man. So weird.
There we go, that's better.
Brendan.
How's your German coming along?
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. It's I'm starting to have some bits and pieces.
All
Brendan recommended to me a band called Spongel.
Spongel.
It's like this sort of
Spongel.
techno-y, chill music from what I could tell. I only listened to 1 or 2 songs, really. 10 seconds of 1 or 2 songs while I downloaded in the car just to see what's up. And yeah, but it's going all right. It's going all right. All right, I think this is pretty much good everywhere. Mate, turn off the sound.
Spongel. Divine Moments of Truth. Looks like something you'd fucking smoke crack to.
Maybe.
What the hell? This is definitely what would come from Brendan.
All right. Yeah, for sure. All right, is your sound turned off?
Let me just check. Yes, I think so. Nope.
Just put your phone away, Juan.
Good. It's ready.
This is what I would suggest. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, no, not yet. Need to make you a bit smaller.
Is mine coming through?
Here we go.
Mine.
Your what?
Microphone?
Yo.
Yo. Yeah. Yo. Yep. Go.
Yes.
Well-rated people. Welcome back, me Immortal Lights.
Yeah, Juan, you started. Keep
Another
going.
edition of Musings, live Musings. Today, talking about favorite books in 2021, folks. Again, we're back live on the YouTube. So if you are listening to this live, feel free to join in the chat. Make sure you're noting down some commentary as well as we go along with the books as well.
Leave some
And
comments.
if you're
all those
listening
good
to
things.
this post live, of course, you can always find us. We're aiming to do Wednesday 7 p.m. Brisbane Standard Time.
Yeah.
Obviously, translate that to whatever it makes
Where you
form
are
for
in the
anywhere
world.
you're in the
Type
world.
it into Google. That's what Google's there for.
So, favorite books in 2021. Karen, thoughts? Why do you want to revisit some of the books from last year?
Yeah, so this was actually a suggestion by Oscar Merry in the book reviews channel. He sent through a Boostagram. I'll actually bring it up so we can look at it exactly. But I felt, oh man, this is that's a big ask. Like that's a full topic in itself. I'm not sure I'm prepared to try and tackle all of those.
Which one?
So he said, new to the pod, what was your favorite book of 2021? And he sent in 2001 Sat. So that was January 14. He sent that.
Nice.
And so I was doing my sort of mere models book reviews, end of month recap. And I was like, yeah, that's a whole topic.
Gotcha.
Like, that's a huge thing. I haven't prepared for it. I'll do it on the actual channel.
Gotcha.
And,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
Go along that route. So that was
Nice.
that was the reasoning for bringing it up in that world. And so yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I haven't particularly looked at it. It's always good to do a little bit of a recap.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Here's an
And
interesting one. Have you got the numbers of how many books you read in
I do.
2021?
I have all those. Yeah,
I've got 14. 14
Okay.
books were read in
All right, so
2021.
we'll go into yours first then. What happened for you in 2021? What was your plan coming into 2021 book reading? What were you hoping to accomplish with your books?
True,
Find
good
anything
point.
Good. Let's go back to the beginning.
All right. So for me, 2021 there was absolutely no single plan at all when it came to book reading. I think
There was no
no target. There was no
Yeah.
I must read 20 books. I want to read one book a month.
Because you had one for this year to read a specific book.
Yes, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. So there was one in terms of the financial, my yearly goals that I did have a target of like I want to reread again.
Yep.
And there was another book as well that I really wanted to read. But apart from that, I don't normally set goals of I want to read X amount, like 20, 30, 40 or something like that. At least maybe a non-tangential goal, I guess, was more along the lines of, I just want to make sure that I'm probably reading a book a month. If I'm at that pace, that's good for me. So 14 books, loved it, which is really good. I'll jump into mine, and then we can talk about probably why. Mm-hmm. So the book that I did reread, and I'm basically going to be rereading every single year, I reckon, is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So this is like the book I'm going to say basically on my birthday, or as soon as possible after my birthday, sort of when I'm going to be targeting to reread this particular book. So that one was good. I've limited myself to the 4 of the 14, of which I'd say are my favorite books. Yep. I would say there's some in there that weren't fantastic.
Well, that's the point, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. The other one was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Now, this book took me by surprise for sure, but it made it into my favorite books. Third one, which absolutely there's no question about, Sapiens, Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari.
And this is how different we are, people. I attempted to read this book in 2018. I remember distinctly because I was in Argentina. I was given it. I did a book swap actually with someone.
A book swap? Yeah. Someone swapped you Sapiens? Man,
so
what did you swap for? Gold?
I had Jordan Peterson's first book, whatever that, not Maps of Meaning, the 12 Rules for Life.
12 Rules for Life.
So I had that, and I'd finished reading it, and it was okay. I don't particularly want to carry this around with me for the rest of my trip. Met this other guy in I was definitely in Buenos Aires and I was living in Palermo, if anyone knows where that is.
Palermo.
And I was chilling out there.
Point to it behind you.
Yeah. So Buenos Aires is, where are we? Jeez. Dan, it's like I'm right in front of it. Buenos Aires is here, the little red dot on the map. And then if you zoom in even further, it's sort of in like the north.
Gotcha. Okay.
Northeast section of the main
cool
Buenos Aires areas. And so we traded it. I attempted to read probably the first chapter and I just thought, man, this is absolute shite. And I remember actually chucking it in a bin.
In a bin?
Yeah. I just...
Yuval would be hurt about that. Hurt.
Yeah, I was not impressed.
I mean, just short on that one, I think the initial pages, the initial first chapters, I do agree, took a little bit, but once you got into the meat of when you realize that it's not so much a history book as it is just a deep meaning type book, it got real good. And the last one, Think Like a Monk, so by Jay Shetty. I just really enjoyed this one. It was when I definitely picked it up, I thought it was going to be a self-help book, which it definitely was, but it was structured in a bit of a different way, which made it all the better. So those are the 4 books in 2021, which I would have been to say would be like my favorite books that I read in that year.
And so do you want to dive deep into them? Ratings, thoughts, why were they your favorite?
Yeah, okay, I'll dive into each one. Just like, we'll do that.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe I was going to be like, hear yours out, and then I'll do mine, and then we can do yours.
No, we'll go stick with yours, yeah.
Cool. Main Search for Meaning, I think it's probably rated now like 9.3 or something out of 10. Yeah, well, it's got like, it's the averages, because I've read it now 3 times. So there's some averages every time I do read it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, I mean, why do I enjoy it? One, I think it's just a great perspective. The way that Viktor Frankl tells it. It's split up into the 2 portions, which I'm going to be frank. Every time I'm going to reread it, I'm not reading the second portion of it, which is all around logotherapy. So I'm not going down that particular branch because it's interesting the first time. I don't have to reread it the second time.
That's why I actually didn't rate it as high as it could have been. I read that section and just left.
It was okay. It was informative, but I wouldn't reread it again.
I didn't even think it was informative. I thought it was just like an old. It was for me. It was like hearing about the 5 hats at school, or the germ theory back in the 1500s, which was non-existent, or there was like. I don't know. For me, I was just like, this is completely irrelevant. Yeah, I've never heard of this before, and it's probably because it's boring and shite and wrong.
Yep.
So yeah,
I found it at least interesting.
The other part, how much of it actually is the logotherapy? Where's the dividing line?
The logotherapy begins at page 137.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way through to 154. Okay, so it's about 20 pages.
It's really not that much, yeah.
Visually, if people are seeing that, it's not much. There's really not much that's a logotherapy piece.
It's quite a small book as
well.
It
was a tiny book, which is nice. I do appreciate for how short it is and packed with information. So I mean, that's a nice thing to look about it. But yeah, I think it's just the key for me. It's just the perspective that it also brings. I like the story, any stories that come out of Auschwitz or anything that comes from those sort of scenarios. I think it's just it's different to normal books. So I do enjoy that.
Gotcha.
Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I got given this one, and it was probably at a time in 2021 when I was reading a lot of non-fiction books. I hadn't gone into fiction since like school or like when I was a younger teen. And then I just started reading this one, and I was like, it's a little, because obviously it's written in 1883, first published. And I'm reading it, so of course it's got a little bit of off English, and you're like, okay, am I really going to get into it? But after a few pages, I just got so stuck into it, and it reminded me of, I guess, reading fiction back when I was younger and how it kept me hooked. And then it made me think, obviously, this was from a long time ago, and yet it still has that ability to hook you into the particular story, even though, one, it's about pirates. 2, maybe it has some references that are a little bit old or outdated that it's hard to map to, but it still keeps the story going quite nicely. So I liked it just for the fact that it was a non-fiction book that kept me hooked pretty good. I read that one really, really quickly, even though it was a much thicker book. So yeah, gotcha. I like Treasure Island. Sapiens, I don't know, man. Yeah, I would say that. Let me pull out the chapters, because it basically goes. There's a timeline of history right at the beginning, and there's a part 1 where he talks about the cognitive revolution, right? And the whole book's premise is that he's talking about a brief history of the whole of humankind. So basically, from the past all the way to today.
Yep.
And that first part, the cognitive revolution, which goes for about 70 pages, there's a lot of stuff about animal significance, tree of knowledge, the flood, day in the life of Adam and Eve. And it was good, but not absolutely riveting. But as soon as it got past that point, when it went into agricultural unification, it's talking about the law of religion, concepts around money and the constructs that we form as sort of humans around that. I just went, wow, this is some proper good stuff, which I'd heard, at least because I've listened to Tim Ferriss have the interview with Yuval Noah Harari. I've listened to other concepts of that, but it was nice to read it, I guess, from the origin of this particular book, which is really good. And what it actually made me do, so if I actually go to the back, and I'll put it on the camera here, if you go to the back of this book, and it's the Sapiens, there's 21 lessons for the 21st century, and there's Homo Deus by Yuval.
I think it's
Deus.
No, Deus.
Deus?
Homo Deus.
Homo Deus. So I ended up buying that particular book for Dad, so that I can absolutely read it as well afterwards. So really enjoyed that one. That one was good. There's a lot of concepts, I think, out of that one that I use in everyday conversation, which is nice. And then the 4th one, Think Like a Monk. But Jay Shetty, I liked Jay himself, so I thought, I think it's going to be pretty cool concepts, and I thought that the self-help potential within here would be a little bit more practical, which it was. It was the self-help was general in nature. It's not like something that's going to be absolutely outstanding you've never heard before, but at the same time, a lot of those concepts he was mapping back to monk life, and I guess it was his perspective on wasn't a monk, became a monk, came back out of being a monk. And so a lot of those concepts he like sort of mapped back to that, which made it really interesting because it was like, okay, that's how actually a monk thinks about this particular concept of that generalization. So, and how he then applies it into everyday life now that he's beyond the monk. So it's like, okay, cool. That was really, really interesting.
How much of a monk do you think he is in terms of monkness? So
more than you.
definitely,
I'd say more.
agree.
I'd say from in terms of a quality of how much would I trust him of a monk-like understanding than others?
If if you have like the prototypical monk who was a Buddhist one, raised basically since he was a child in the monastery sort of thing, what percentage of monkness do you think Jay Shetty would have from his experiences?
Well, I can't remember specifically how long, and something calls to mind that it was like 7 years as a monk. I think it was 7 years. I'd have to actually look this up, but it was actually quite a few years. And I would say that the prototypical monk that we think about, so like, raised from birth to be a monk, I would say that's more a rarity than like the overarching like.
Oh, definitely,
everyone.
yeah.
So from like just statistical perspective, I'd say he's probably more than a monk than a lot of people. So I would probably go down the path of saying, like he's got enough of a perspective of what a monk life would be, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah. 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so it wasn't super long. I'm just wondering, in terms of neural pathways and the hard wiring, the synapses and roots in your brain that are formed by daily prayer, for example. If you do that for 40 years, how actually would you think differently? I guess is my thoughts. Like, would you be still creative? How much of your personality would change, perhaps, all those sorts of things. I think that would be like an interesting question to know, because I'm guessing the book was more about your thought patterns and like routines. Is that
not so much? No. What he was more about was the actual concepts behind what he got taught in the monastery and as being a monk. So just got like a couple of things he was talking about. It's 3 parts in the actual book around letting go, growing, and giving, and basically just goes into the concepts of identity, negativity, fear, intention, ego, the mind, routine, relationship, service, and all of them are mapped to things that he got taught at the monastery, things that the actual monks were suggesting to him. So it was sort of like, it's each of those aspects or the teachings that they were trying to pass on, how they were trying to train them when they were in the monastery, and then how he was trying to apply them afterwards, I guess, leaving the monastery. So would that change if you were 50 years in the monastery? I guess not, because you'd still be doing the same thing. Would you maybe have a different concept against it? Maybe. But he didn't actually go into the concept itself. Like, he doesn't go deep into, what does it actually mean to live or something like that. That's what I enjoyed about it, because it was more practical. It was like, okay, we had to do this walking back and forth on this 20-meter like grass strip, basically, to teach us about precision and to be in the moment type of deal. And so he was like, okay, it was really frustrating at the beginning when he was doing it, but then he saw what it sort of meant, and that's how he brings, I guess, perspective on the now when he's outside of obviously a monastery. So I think a same would be said of someone who had been 50 years in a monastery, but they might have a different perception on the actual in-depth perspective of it. But it was more of a, here's what the example was, this is how I applied it, here's the practical examples. And I went, okay, cool. I could see how that practically applies.
Gotcha. Coolies. All right. Got so
those
that was
are four books.
4 of the 14.
Yep.
Did you have an average rating of what you gave everything? Did you have any of those?
No.
All right. Well, I'll be
You'll bring some numbers.
Yeah. All right. So we got West Side Baby in the chat. Yo. And I asked him. So this is my brother, for those who don't know. And for also those who don't know, he's not that much of a reader. So I asked him, what's your favorite book? Well, he says, Wacky But True, only good book ever wrote. And so first of all, that's not even a book. It's a magazine. And it's like a series of magazines. And they were, I think, maybe 20 pages, 25 pages in total. And they would just have random facts. Like I remember one was extreme ironing. That was the first time I ever heard of extreme ironing, which is sort of a sport where people take an iron.
Maybe that's where I heard about that too.
I doubt it because it's not a popular. Like you might have heard it from me or.
I remember seeing. So I remember seeing specifically a picture of extreme ironing of someone ironing from between two cliffs on like a tightrope style thing.
Yeah,
so I remember definitely seeing an image of these things. I don't know if it was from Rocky but True, but it's a magazine. It's a magazine. Not a book.
Yeah, exactly. So good, nice try, but honestly, that's probably close to the only book he's ever read. So good. Thank you for your input there. All right, because I'm a nerd, I'm gonna show you all my stats from last year and whatnot. So this is probably more optimal for those who are watching, but I'll read it out anyway. So if I go over to here, and then you should start to see my new screen if you're watching that soon. And basically, I have created I always record everything I'm doing, basically. So I have in here all of the books that I read from 2021. So there was actually 75 books in total. And this should then give us... I'm sorry, I'm just trying to verify that the stream is caught up. Yep, it's all good. So basically in here, I've got all of how I went. So I started off with Krat's Cradle, Kurt Vonnegut, an 8 out of 10. So that was the first book I read in January 2021. And then I finished with... I actually included some February ones in here. Whoops. So I would have finished probably around here-ish, I would say.
It's just moved away.
Yeah. So from there, so actually let's take that back down. It was probably 69 books in January of 2021.
Yep.
And, basically, I give it a rating from 0 to 10, and I've even drawn up a normal distribution.
Nice, I like it.
So if you're looking at the screen now, and this one I will include the screen for both the live people watching on live and then also on the just normal audio. You'll see here that I've created a normal distribution. So basically, it's sort of a shifted normal distribution. So I rarely give books a 0 to 2 rating. That's very, very unlikely.
Because basically, like, you're not going to be picking up books that are going to be 0 to 2 anyways.
Yeah, I usually will have dropped them by then. And then a 10 out of 10 book is also a like a 10 out of 10 girl. It doesn't exist. So you can see here it's centered mostly around the 6 to 6.5. So that's the peak. I guess like the bulk of the ratings. The mean is dropping within there. So my favorite books, obviously, are going to be around this 8 to 9 range. So what were they? Well, I can jump over to here and you can see how I've ordered them. So right at the bottom here, I had 2 books that I rated a 9 out of 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I rated an 8 out of 10. So obviously
your default top ones.
Yep. So my favorite, and this will be no surprise if you've been listening at all in this last year, Lost Horizon by James Hilton. So that was just such a random find as well. Like I got it really out of nowhere because it was just a book that I went to the library. I was sort of wondering like, oh geez, I need to find some more books. I sort of want to find some like smallish ones or classic ones or something like that. And I think this had a classic title written on it. So I just pulled it out, found it, pulled it out. And yeah, man, just blew me away. First of all, that was when I didn't even realize that was where Shangri-La came from. He coined the term Shangri-La. So if you've ever heard of that before, sort of a mythical city hidden in the mountains, that's where it comes from, the Lost Horizon book. And yeah, it was just because it hit all of these talking points that I really enjoy. You know, it had sort of adventure in it, had the classic stoic, can-do English attitude of the main character. It had a bit of Buddhism thrown in there. It had wise old men, meditating in the tops of mountains and beautiful sceneries. I just love I love mountains more than I do any other type of scenery. So all of these, there was a big twist about 4/5 of the way through that just caught me so off guard. I didn't expect it. The events passed in the book, and I'm just going, no. And I see like everything ticking over in my own mind of how I've been fooled as well. Like the main character got fooled, and I was fooled just as much.
Which is nice when you tag along with the book like that, and it's like, oh man. Wow, like I didn't see that coming. Yeah. I was in it. Yeah. Now, just to make sure, because I call out as well. So these are all. Oh well, that's a fiction book.
So that one is definitely fictional.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So make sure you call out if they're fiction and non-fiction, because we're probably be good to see a difference. Because mine definitely were mine was 1 fiction, 3 non-fiction, and I think of the 14 books, I think it was 2 fiction, all of them non-fiction.
Yeah.
So that one was fiction. Yep.
So that one's definitely fictional, and. It was just a fun, really fun read. And also the other thing that sort of put it up there was I remember needing to go to sleep. It was probably 11:30 and I'd set a bedtime of myself at 11 or something. And I'd just be going, just one more chapter, and then you read for an extra hour or something, and you pay for it the next day. But damn, that was good. Yeah. So that was definitely I'll say that was the best book of 2021. But it's joint with this other one. So the other one was Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I'd read this before, once again fictional, and this was I'd read this, I'll say like 3 or 4 years earlier, and I remember enjoying it, and I remember rating it highly back then. So it's probably like 8.75 or something. So I would have given an 8.5, and just a war book. But like a humorous war book that's anti-war as well, which is sort of up my alley. Like I'm not really a pro-war type of guy. So if it's poking fun at bureaucracy and needless violence and things like that, that's sort of up my alley. And I think I'm really growing to love absurdism, or just the concept of, I guess, they're having competing ideas and they both sort of live on the same plane and they're both true at the same time. So, you can really love blondes, but you hate this one blonde in particular, something like that. And this book, I think, is really great at showing that just the stupidness, the contradictory nature, the paradoxes of human life. And I think it's a really, really good book at showing that. And then just super, super funny. He wrote it really, really, really nicely. So that was another one. Then if I jump back to my list here, what else do I have? So I'll just read all of these out. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, very similar, just a really funny, absurd book.
Fiction?
Fiction. Start With Why by Simon Sinek. That one I didn't expect because it's sort of like a business type book. It's not really up my business/mindset book, which isn't really up my alley nowadays. But I thought he did a really good idea of his circles.
Why one?
Forgotten. Yeah, why. Starting with the why, that's the most important thing. Why are you doing what you're doing? False Alarm by Bjorn Lomborg. I think that was just really good. So non-fiction, all about the science of, science and politics of climate change and what will actually happen if we have a 1 degree temperature rise. Are we all going to die? Quick answer, no. Yeah, we're going to be fine. And then deciding the cost of how, if we take actions now, how much can we actually impact right now? And is that actually going to make a difference? Like, are we just making a really bad trade-off in terms of trying to fix a problem that's not really a problem as of yet? I guess is that what were you going to say? We're going to.
I was going to say now, like the fact that it was. I think Joe's going to have somebody else on, Joe Rogan, around climate. Because I know he was talking about with Jordan Peterson that he was going to have somebody on around that, and I feel like it's one of those things that's going around the podcast world at the moment with climate change and weather change, and so many people just up in arms.
It's a hot topic.
Like we're sort of done. Extremes. It's like
we're sort of done with COVID. I think a little bit. I think everyone's sort of done with that. So climate change is going to come back
to peak back up.
Probably nuclear well, that's
Well,
sort
I
of
think the
ties
bigger
in
conversation
with,
is from what you sent me through to of a listen, but just broadly, I've actually started seeing this a lot more. Just the whole ESG, environmental,
social governance,
social governance, and the money and the investing around that.
Yeah.
I think it's something's gonna rear its head up, and you're gonna see a lot more stuff being talked about.
I think there's there seems to be a bit of BS and malarkey going on around there. Anyway, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. So that is fictional, as telling the story of the migrant workers in the Dust Bowl era. So in the United States, in California type region. So I think this was the 1920s, 30s, but it could also be later. It could have been the 50s or 60s. Around that era.
Within the 1900s.
It was the 1900s, yes. And yeah, this is one of those books where I was like super confused. It was about white people, but I thought it was about black people.
Gotcha.
And this
for a
was,
large majority of the
this
book.
is what triggered that, you talking about how you thought Ron Weasley was black.
Yeah.
The Essential Shuangzi. So I guess this is fictional because it's just mini fictional stories. This is a book I got from Brendan, once again tying in that sort of idea of Tao and absurdism. I really like that book. That was one of the ones that I read during my little retreat that I did as well. And My Brother Jack by George Johnston. That was a bit of a surprise. That was an Aussie book and detailing a guy who was sort of like a war dodger in a way. He was like a really good writer. So he was... once again, was it World War One or World War Two? I can't remember. Probably World War One, and the Australian sort of mindset with regards to it, and it was just a nice Australian book to read that I hadn't found before. And then Candide by Voltaire, humorist. Once again, it seems to be. I think like judging from this, what are my favorite books of 2021? They're humorous books. They're books that make me laugh.
Gotcha.
And books that make me laugh, but also because of the absurd nature of life. That seems to be the winners.
The core folks of it,
the winners, yeah. Do you want to take... Oh, so we've got a couple of comments here. So Wacky But True. So that book was actually made by my book. That magazine series was made by one of my aunties.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's why I was saying there's no way...
Oh, it must have not been by Wacky But True then.
Yeah, because...
It wouldn't have been in Wacky and True, but maybe in another book sometime.
Wacky But True. All I can think is you saw it at my house or you saw it somewhere else. But and then we have Dance for Freedom Now. Many years ago, I started reading A Song of Ice and Fire. That's Game of Thrones?
No idea.
No. Then the series came out and I did not finish the books. I'm going to look that up quickly. Whilst I do that, I think we can jump onto some of the Boostagrams.
Yep, let's do that.
And call some people out for jumping in. So for those who are new here, this is a Value for Value podcast. We ask that you support us, and there's many ways you can do that: time, talent, or treasure. So if you want to dedicate some time to helping us out with our chapter art or images, or you think we could do something a bit better with the descriptions, whatever way that you can add a little bit of time, that really helps. Talent is if you look at our website and you're like, you guys are shit designers, this could be so much better. Hey, we're always happy if people give us some suggestions. Time also comes in with giving us reviews or telling us that our audio is good, audio is bad, small things like that. Recommending books as well. And then treasure, of course, is sending through actual donations of monetary value. We always recommend the Boostagram one. This is a way where you can interact with the show, get a message directly to us in real time through your podcasting app. So go to newpodcastapps.com. There's a bunch there. And Juan, what have we got for this week?
Good. All right, we've got a few here. First one I'm going to call out is by Signs of New Growth.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying, throwing some sats back your way. Thanks again for your help with Satoshi Stream. He sent back 3,333 sats using Fountain. Yeah,
so that's Anthony. I mentioned that in the last podcasting episode 268. He was a cool guy. Glad that he had managed to get onto the Boostagram scene and send some our way. That was very, very cool.
Always very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Another one from via Castomatic. There's a few here, Castomatic. Dave Jones. First one is 2,112 sats. Whoa, in Australia, you're required by law to vote. That reminds me of the question I ponder a lot. What happens if an election happened and nobody voted? There would be no legitimacy of the ruler to rule. No wonder they require voting. It assures there's always a veil of legitimacy, even if the available candidates are all unwanted.
Yeah. I had some thoughts on this. I'm super okay with... Well, my general principle is you should be able to basically do whatever you want without coercion. So you shouldn't be having people to tell you, by and large, you have to vote. You have to do this. You have to do that. I'm more a fan of you do whatever. But I do think gentle pushes in the general direction of good is okay.
It's not a bad thing.
So is it better for countries to have everyone vote or no one vote? Well, probably everyone vote. So gentle pushes in that direction. So a small fine, like if it really matters to you that much that you exercise your liberty not to vote, you just pay the small fine. Like it's not the end of the world. So I'm totally okay with those. That's a funny hypothetical as well. In the Thomas Hobbes, the Leviathan, he was saying basically there's no real legitimacy anyway. Like the sovereign, the Commonwealth it's always sort of a retroactive thing. It's always once they're in there, they're like, yeah, we're legit now. You know, I am descended from this long lost king in the past, or I conquered the no lands. I brought all the groups together. I am the Messiah, the Savior. It always happens. There's always, like, if you go back far enough, someone's just created some BS out of anywhere to say, yeah, this is a legitimate government, a legitimate Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So
but what afterwards?
Essentially, it would be funny to see it in a modern context for sure, where it's just like not a single person voted. Like everyone hated the candidate so much that everyone decided to
not vote.
Fuck it.
But still, in any case, come to power. Couple other here from Dave Jones, another 2,112 cents by 2,112 sats via Castomatic. Happy Australia Day. I see the Australian people are very creative in naming the holidays. Most definitely. And another one, 2,112 sats by Castomatic by Dave. And he said, this episode reminds me of the Robot Chicken episode where Darth Vader uses the Force to choke people and they pretend to die, but they put on a costume and come back as someone else. I'm assuming that's for us. I'm not sure what that one was for.
Yeah, no, I was trying to think of it as well. I didn't have the...
Well, I thought it was for us changing shirts and that, but that episode wouldn't have probably come out yet. So
when did he send that on? What date was that?
31st of January.
Yeah, okay. My stream bot is... I'd have to go into the actual stats. I don't have that up at the moment.
But anyways, appreciated those, Dave.
Did you ever watch Robot Chicken out of interest?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I watched like small portions. Brendan, my friend Brendan's actually been telling me about some really funny sounding South Park episodes recently.
I don't think I ever watched a South Park episode either. I watched bits and bobs of it, like a couple of seconds of it, but never like a proper episodes. They're still going.
Yeah, for sure, man. He was saying they're really bang on with the latest cultural trends and mocking them. So, do you remember the Lime scooters when the Lime scooters were getting out? So they had one where it was that mixed with the pandemic, and so this is him just telling it to me. I haven't actually gotten to watch it yet. He was saying basically everyone was getting on Lime scooters and they were infecting other people, and they'd just be like driving around randomly. They'd be on like a person's car on their windshield, being like, "Oh, sorry, like I didn't mean to be there," like blah 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 blah. And it just sounded really funny that they were able to merge these two. You know, the pandemic themes and the Lime scooter phenomenon that was just sweeping the globe and just bring them together. Sounded quite
That's interesting that
talented.
it would have been sweeping the globe, because that whole scooters thing happened many years ago in other countries. It's only in Australia that it's happened now, but that happened in Singapore and in the US like years and years ago.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then the last one here from Petar Quack.
Yep.
2,222 sats.
And this is one.
Set on Fountain.
Do you know why he says quack quack?
He says quack quack because the twos look like
the row of ducks.
Row of ducks.
Oh, Jesus.
Jeez, twos.
So Dance for Freedom now, it was indeed Game of Thrones. I am up to date with A Song for Ice and Fire.
Have you watched Game of Thrones?
No, never.
No.
Never.
I've watched the
a single
first
thing.
12 minutes of the first episode. And I
Yeah,
stopped
you were
watching
done?
it. I was done. I was like, that's it.
Gotcha. The other thing was you said OT at Karen, you received a couple of millions of hosky from the tipbot and the hosky general. Yeah, it's hard for me to with Discord, especially that general. When it's a super quick one and you get a mention in there, how do you do it on your phone? Find it, because there's no search function on your phone for Discord, right?
There is, yeah.
Is there?
Yep.
Because I'm usually, most of the time it's someone just going at everyone in that particular thing, and so or at hosky, which also does the same thing. But they've recently done like a tip bot in the Discord, and it just goes wacky wild, because now people can send hosky to each other and
damn.
It's almost like the layer 2 of hosky now, so you're not doing it
Jesus.
on the main Cardano chain,
You're doing it on like the
off-chain.
level. Yeah, so if you ever need to know when you're in Discord on your phone, and for people who ever use Discord, if you go to the top right to your like little button of people, you can actually search, and then when you can search from someone mentioned you specifically has whatever, so you can actually go mention you, and it'll come.
Will that
up.
include me in the everyone one? So if someone types in at everyone, I'm going to get the ping message.
Yep.
When I search from or to at Kyron or whatever it is.
It'll only be the
So
specifics, but you can also search the ones that they like if they call out everyone.
I got like fucking 3 or 4 of them, man. It's like at everyone, at hosky, blah blah blah.
Yeah, so like here I can see anyone who's like specifically mentioned me on all these Discords.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks for that message there, Dance for Freedom. Now I'll have to go out and check out. I was aware I had been donated some. I need to tip that on for people who are doing good memes and whatnot.
Man, what's it up to now? What's your hosky wallet looking like now?
3.2 billion, maybe something like that. Yeah.
I remember we were talking about this being like 100 million.
100 million is like big bucks. Yeah. No, it's creeping up. Rewards are. I don't know. You have to be smart about it now. You have to really put some thought into it if you want to maximize your hosky.
Your hoskies.
Yeah, because it's getting more popular, and so they're like spreading it out thinner. So if you want more, you have to be on
put
the ball.
in the effort.
That's it. Coolies. All right. Well, this isn't a super long episode, but I wanted to go through a couple of shout outs of like unfavourite books as well.
Okay.
Just for a laugh. So
I've
got my ones here. So coming in, rounding out
at the very bottom.
At the very bottom, a 2 out of 10, very rare, is The Question Concerning Technology by Martin Heidegger. I've been trying to read some. Now that actually could potentially have been in January, of January of 2022. So that, just put that there. Around the Day in 80 Worlds, Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, Meditations on Living, Dying and Loss, which was a Buddhist book.
What, all of these are 3?
3.5 out of 10 for that one. Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche, 3.5 out of 10.
That's disappointing.
I'm just going to keep going because I think this shows a lot as well. 3 Steps to Awakening by Larry Rosenberg, 4 out of 10. The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh, rest in peace, mate, 4 out of 10. So, did I mention, Around the Days in 80 Worlds by Julio Cortázar, 3 out of 10. So the main thing from this was philosophy books, even though it's my mission to read them. God damn, I've had a really couple of
struggles.
A bunch of the Buddhist books. This is tying in with the fact that it's not a great medium because they translate things directly from speech into text and don't bother to write it particularly for the book format. It's just like, here's my teachings that I do in audio format. This will work well in book format or written text. And no, it doesn't. Yeah,
well, I found that as well in the Gary Vee one. Like it's just so much, he's so much more of a, you consume him through video or audio as opposed to really reading it. And it was like, reading is like, it's okay, but consuming it through video would have been like way better. Yeah.
And then just a couple of I've noticed the book I'm reading right now as well in Spanish is, it's called La Casa Verde by Mario Vargas Llosa, which is the greenhouse. And it's just, they have this real fondness. Maybe this was just the times they were in, the Latin American boom period. They have this fondness for writing in these weird formats. So they'll have 6 or 7 different structures or stories within a story. They'll try and change the time horizon between them. They'll have some which are written in the normal sort of paragraph format, and then one which is just a wall of text. It's fucking hard to read, man.
It's annoying.
Just super, super difficult. Yeah. What about you? What?
I just had a quick look. The only one that I'd call out that was below a 5. Everything else was above a 6. Or a 6 or upwards, was Stories for Work by Gabrielle Dallin.
Man, I could have... I would have called that out before you read it.
So I've actually read this book. I had actually read that book already. So I'd read it a couple of years before. Like I'd read it maybe in 2017 when it was given to us for free when I used to work at a company. And I read it at the time and I didn't enjoy it. And I just had it laying around. So this was the very start of the year. So I thought... I'll read this one because I remember it. And I'm not too sure if I really enjoyed it or not. Perhaps I'll see it with new light. And yeah, the new light that I saw was just piggery. And I was like, this is terrible. No, I don't want to read that. I didn't finish that book. That was one of those. I know that for you, you're one of those people that can be like, oh, if it's a terrible book or if I need to kind of like skip through it and get the gist of it, that's fine. But I'm 100% a person that I like to read it from like the front to the back. There's no missing anything if I'm reading this. And that book was like, okay, I'm not reading it end to end. There's no way I'm doing that. Like, get out of my face.
Bad choice. Yeah, that was one I found in my dad's house called Fierce Conversations, which was a book I think aimed at women and how they can improve their negotiation skills in the workforce to have, be more fierce, to go out, get after a girl. You deserve that raise. You deserve. Man, it was just. I gave it a try and.
As long as it's informative. I mean, if it's written well and it's informative, sure. But, if it's written in a terrible style or just the message doesn't come through, then it doesn't matter what topic you pick. If it's just written, terribly, then it's no good. Like, at the moment, I'm reading Love Stories by Trent Dalton.
Okay.
And the topic itself, I think, in any other way, shape, or form, I would have been like, okay, that's a bit repetitive. It's a bit dull. And there's probably giving you a little bit insight of the book review that I'll do. But just his writing style and the way that he maps, there's probably 1,000 stories in this book, right? And he just maps a lot of them into very short sentences and ways, but in a really brilliant way. In a way that I guess Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces. That piece of shit had 2,000 stories in that bloody book, but intertwined in such a horrific way that
he didn't start or finish a single one of them.
Yeah, it was horrible. You know what I mean? Every single one was where's this beginning? Where's ending? And a lot of people I know, Tim Ferriss and co, are oh, this is a great book.
It, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of the hero's journey is fine, but the way came about and was described could have been described in such a better way. At least for me. But in a similar way, Trent Dalton's book is about love and love stories, and it's in the exact same way that it brings all these stories together. But he himself is a really good writer, and the way he structures it together is oh man, it's when people joke and they'll revert back 3 or 4 things that they've mentioned and they'll bring it back up and then they'll sort of swindle in a couple of things. You're like, oh, that's a really good thing. He does that too. So it's okay, man, some books could have been made so much better if you just had the right sense, the right logic when you're writing this.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to highlight one point, which we did for you, but I forgot to do for me, which was, why did I read that many books, however many it was, let's just say 70-ish in 2020, 21. And the reason was I had set a goal to read 50 books that year. It encapsulated part of that year, I believe, which was to read... Or was that the year before? Jesus Christ, man. The year's just flying since we started doing this podcast. There was a goal I had to read a lot of books. And maybe it ended just before that. And I was sort of just carrying through anyway. So I was trying to do...
I think it was the year before.
Yeah, so I was trying to do... anyway, the reason was I came into the year doing 2 book reviews a week, essentially. We're uploading 2 book reviews a week. A fun little fact here, your book review on Treasure Island is your highest rated book review on the channel.
Cool.
And so I was just bulk reading, and it wasn't until I think just before the end of the year, which was when I stopped and reverted back to 1 per week.
Yep.
And then because you were filling in some gaps, that's why I got to around the 70 stage. But there was, I think, a period, if you maybe jumped into the October period beforehand, where I would have got close to reading 100 books in a year, a year period.
Well, maybe it's worth adding as well, just for...
Too much, people. It's too much.
For the mere mortal at home, how much time do you spend reading on average a day? Obviously. So, like, I read 14 books. Who knows what the average size or whole pages are, but I reckon I spend... I'm going to be... This is probably on the... No, I'll go conservative. I'll say 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, okay.
Is my current, I guess, would say average. And I'm talking, like, so including weekends and whatever, mate. 15 minutes, I'd say, a day.
Yeah, it was probably about an hour.
Yeah. Because you normally get yours, so Karen normally reads at nighttime, normally. Like, that's probably the more predetermined time.
That's... Yes and no. I used to be a lot more strict with it. Now I'm sort of... If I get back late, if I'm doing things, if this had run on for an extra hour, then I had to eat, and then it was 11:45, I'd maybe just go, I'll just go to sleep now. I won't bother. But yeah, part of the reason is it just helps me sleep better. If I read beforehand for half an hour, I'm more chilled out. But I also read in the afternoons, I think.
Gotcha.
So
okay. Yeah, whereas for me,
a little bit between the two.
I read 15 minutes, right, or sometimes more, like right as I wake up. So I'll wake up. So normally, like, say my alarm goes off at 4:10. I'll get up, make myself a coffee, and I'll be reading until 4:40, and then head off to the gym. So that's like my little period of being able to read the book. Sometimes I get it sometime in the afternoon, nighttime. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah,
but that's sort of like where I try to make up the book reading. So for people out there, commenting that you've never read a book, you can 100% make some time to read a book.
Well, if you want
or an audiobook. I mean, yeah, I would say if you want to, but I feel like it's one of those things. Again, this is like pushing people towards the good.
Yeah, okay.
I would say this is one of those moments where I'd push you towards go read a book.
One would put your face a book in your face, and you.
Well, I think the greatest thing about
books, you get a fine if you don't read one book.
I can't remember who actually.
If you don't do one book review per year, you get a fine.
Yeah, you get fined. I don't know who made this comment, but it was something along the lines of like, if you listen to a podcast or a video, you're getting the wisdom of the information that's probably been crafted over a couple of hours worth of effort. But when you read a book, it's hundreds of hours or research or information that's pulled together to hopefully be a good book. So I'm not saying every single book, so we just talked about there's some real shit books out there. But I think if you got the right book, there's a lot of information you can gain out of it.
Yeah, look, there's also plenty of books that people whip up in 3 weeks as well.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I don't know how much I trust those books to gain a ton of insights.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm sort of iffy on it. I don't think it's for everyone. Like my brother and Mr. Onion Jr. says, not going to lie, I haven't read a book in years. I think there's time periods where you probably just don't want to. I didn't read much whilst in university. It wasn't until like the last year of university I got back into reading again. So yeah, it's for those who want to, for sure. I think that's a pretty
brilliant.
Good
we'll probably wrap it up there.
To call it, yeah. So as we mentioned, you could also have your name being read out in the show, and mad props from us and interacting and a direct contribution. All of it really is appreciated when you do that. So we always recommend do it via a Boostagram. So that's going onto one of the apps like Fountain or Customatic you were mentioning just before. So that'll cover you on whatever phone. Those two are both Fountains are available on both. Customatics on iOS.
What about for people who use like Oppo or Huawei or Huawei and stuff?
I have no idea. I've never even heard Adam Curry talking about what you do if you're on Huawei or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like, I don't know the guy. Well, I'll tell you why I brought that up. Like, at the moment, like one of the items from